I retired, all I knew was defending my end zone.
I didn't know what to do. I always had my guard up.
Ready to tear someone's head off.
Then I stopped settling for safe-ish and got safe with ADT.
With 24/7 monitoring,
What's up, Brian?
I'm more relaxed than ever.
And I don't have my head on the swivel anymore. Oh, a black cat chickadee.
I had a whole defensive scheme to keep it safe-ish.
Woo! And safe-ish wasn't good enough. Oh, hey!
Hey, Bam Bam!
What's going on?
Because now when it comes to protecting my house, I use ADT. Coming through! No, not in my house!
Oh, a cat!
The Instagram post appeared at 11:47 p.m. on a Monday, and that's when I knew my marriage was dead. Sometimes you have to break someone's heart to find your own happiness. The photo showed Madison in workout clothes, leaning against some gym rat with perfect abs and a smile that screamed overconfidence. The caption might as well have been a confession signed in blood. 23 likes already. Her sister commented with a heart emoji. My own wife's sister. I sat there on our couch, correction, her father's couch in the apartment he co-signed for, staring at my phone like it might explode. The blue light made everything feel surreal, like I was watching someone else's life collapse. But no, this was mine. 34 years old, a decade of my life invested in this woman, and she announces our ending on social media before telling me to my face. Oh sure, happiness starts with stealing someone else's credit card, I thought. Because that's exactly what she'd done 3 weeks ago. I'd noticed the charges, a nice hotel in Milwaukee, dinner at a steakhouse I'd never heard of, tickets to some concert I knew she didn't attend alone. I'd confronted her about it then, and she'd fed me some line about a work retreat, a networking opportunity, professional development with a personal trainer named Devin Cross, apparently. I should have felt rage. That's what they show in movies, the betrayed husband throwing things, screaming, making threats. Instead, I felt cold, calculating. I'd spent 10 years as a project manager before transitioning to tech consulting. I knew how to plan, how to execute, how to identify risks and eliminate them systematically. Madison had made a critical error. She'd underestimated me. I took a screenshot of the post, then another, then archived everything. Instagram, Facebook, her Twitter account she thought I didn't know about. Every piece of digital evidence saved to 3 separate cloud drives. Then I opened our banking app. The joint account we'd maintained for 5 years showed a balance of $847. Last week, it had been $12,000. My paycheck, her paycheck, our savings for the house we'd talked about buying. Gone. Transferred out in increments over the past month. Not stolen. Technically, she had every right to that money. But morally, she'd gutted us. I checked the credit cards next. The one in my name was maxed. The one in hers showed charges at expensive restaurants, boutique hotels, a jewelry store. She'd bought someone a gift. It wasn't me. It was 12:15 a.m. when I started packing. I moved quietly, methodically. Clothes first. Everything that mattered fit into 2 suitcases. My laptop, my external drives, the file folders with our tax documents and my personal records. I left the furniture, left the dishes, left the framed photos of our wedding that now felt like crime scene evidence. By 2:30 a.m., my car was loaded. I took one last look at the apartment. Madison was at Devin's place tonight. Another networking session, she'd said yesterday before kissing my cheek and driving off. She wouldn't be back until tomorrow afternoon. Perfect. I left my keys on the kitchen counter. Didn't leave a note. What would I say? Sorry I couldn't be the doormat you wanted? Thanks for the memories and the financial ruin? No, she'd figure it out. I blocked her number as I drove away. Blocked her on everything. Social media, messaging apps, even email filters to auto-delete anything from her address. As far as I was concerned, Madison Kerr had ceased to exist. At least, the Madison I thought I knew had ceased to exist. The woman who'd just destroyed our life together? She was about to learn what happens when you betray someone who's smarter than you think. I crashed at a motel that first night. Nothing fancy, just a clean room with Wi-Fi and a door that locked. I needed time to think, to plan. Sleep didn't come easy. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that Instagram post, that smug smile, that caption basically announcing she'd moved on while I'd been working 60-hour weeks to keep us afloat. The betrayal wasn't just the affair, it was the calculation behind it. Madison had planned this, the money transfers, the secret getaways, the social media groundwork to make herself look like the victim finding happiness after suffering. She was building a narrative, and I'd been cast as the obstacle she'd nobly overcome. Wednesday morning, I called Lila Monroe. Lila and I went back to grade school. She'd been the weird kid who brought a laptop to class in 5th grade, back when that wasn't normal. Now she ran a cybersecurity consulting firm and had skills that would make most hackers jealous. All perfectly legal, of course, or legal enough that she'd never been caught. Ryan? Her voice was rough with sleep. It's 6 a.m. Madison's cheating on me, I said. No preamble, no softening the blow. I need your help. Silence. Then, I'll be at the coffee shop on 5th in 30 minutes. Bring everything. Lila listened without interrupting as I laid it all out. The Instagram post, the bank accounts, the credit cards, the pattern of lies I'd been too trusting to see earlier. She sipped her black coffee and took notes on a tablet, her expression neutral. When I finished, she looked up. You want me to hack her stuff? I want you to help me understand what I'm dealing with, I said. I need to know everything. Where she's going, who she's with, what she's planning. I can't fight an enemy I can't see. Spoken like a true project manager. Lila smirked. Okay, give me access to anything you still have. Shared accounts, old passwords, anything that might give me a foothold. Isn't this illegal? Depends on what I find and how I find it. She shrugged. Besides, she used your credit card without permission. That's fraud. And you're married, so joint assets are fair game for investigation. We're just protecting your interests. I gave her everything. Old passwords, account numbers, the email address Madison used for personal stuff. Lila's fingers flew across her keyboard, pulling up screens full of data I couldn't begin to decipher. Got something, she said after 20 minutes. Your wife's been using a fitness tracking app, full GPS logs. I can see everywhere she's been for the past 6 months. Show me. The map was damning. Regular visits to an address I didn't recognize. Devon's apartment, I assumed. Multiple trips to hotels across the city. A weekend getaway to a cabin in Wisconsin I'd never heard about. All while I'd been at home, working, believing her stories about late meetings and gym sessions. There's more, Lila said. She's been planning something big. Look at this calendar sync. She pulled up what appeared to be a shared calendar between Madison and someone identified only as D this weekend. Friday through Sunday, a private Airbnb rental near Lake Geneva. The reservation was under Madison's name, paid for with our joint credit card before she'd drained the account. She's going away with him, I said quietly. And she's been posting about it obliquely on social media, building up this narrative of finding herself and taking time for personal growth. Lila pulled up Madison's Instagram grid, post after post about self-care, empowerment, deserving happiness, comments from friends calling her brave and inspiring. They had no idea she was brave enough to cheat on her husband and inspiring enough to rob him blind first. What do you want to do? Lila asked. I thought about it. Madison had orchestrated this perfectly. She had the social narrative, the financial resources, and apparently the full support of her social circle who believed whatever victim story she'd been selling. If I went public now, I'd look like the bitter ex. If I confronted her, she'd twist it into harassment. No. I needed to be smarter. Can you freeze the joint accounts? I asked. Already done. I put a fraud alert on everything when you called me this morning. Nothing can be moved without your explicit approval. Good. What else can we do? Lila grinned. It wasn't a nice expression. How much do you want to hurt her? The thing about Madison was that she'd always needed to be in control of our social life, our finances, our narrative. She curated everything, what photos we posted, what stories we told at parties, how we presented ourselves to the world. Being married to her was like being a character in a play she directed. So the key to destroying her wasn't violence or confrontation. It was taking away that control, making her world unpredictable, making her feel what I felt, helpless, betrayed, and totally blindsided. Lila and I spent Wednesday planning. First thing, she said, we need to intercept her communication with Devin. I can't hack his phone legally, but I can monitor any shared apps or accounts, fitness trackers, calendar syncs, anything with joint access. Do it. Second, we need to poison the well socially. Right now she's got this victim narrative going. We need to introduce doubt, not accusations. That'll make you look bad. Just information that makes people question her version of events. Like what? Like screenshots of her draining your bank account, casually shared with one or two key people who will spread it naturally. Your cousin who's friends with her sister, your old college roommate who plays poker with her brother. Just facts, no commentary. Let people draw their own conclusions. It was elegant. Madison had built her narrative on social media. We'd use the same platform to dismantle it. What about the Airbnb? I asked. Lila pulled up the listing. It was a luxury property, lakefront, 4 bedrooms, private dock, expensive. Madison had paid for 3 nights using the credit card that I was now alerted to watch. I have an idea, Lila said slowly, but you're not going to like it. Try me. We contact the owner. Explain that your wife booked this property using a joint credit card without your consent while in the process of abandoning the marriage. Request a cancellation and refund. Most owners will comply because they don't want to be involved in marital disputes. That cancels their trip. That ruins her big romantic weekend. And when she tries to find another place last minute, everything decent will be booked. It's summer season at Lake Geneva. I felt a smile forming. My first real smile in days. Do it. Thursday morning, Madison finally realized I was gone. I knew because Lila intercepted her panicked messages to friends. Ryan just left. No note, no explanation. He blocked me on everything. What do I do? The responses were sympathetic at first. OMG, are you okay? Men are trash. You deserve better. But then, Lila's information campaign kicked in. My cousin accidentally mentioned to Madison's sister about weird charges on accounts. My old roommate casually asked her brother if Madison had mentioned any financial troubles. Nothing accusatory, just concerned questions. The narrative started shifting. Wait, did something happen with money? I heard Ryan was supporting her while she went back to school. Wasn't he paying most of the rent? Madison tried to control it, posted more inspirational quotes about growth and moving forward, but the doubt was planted. People started asking questions she couldn't answer without looking bad. Meanwhile, I stayed invisible, didn't respond to mutual friends reaching out, didn't post on social media. I'd become a ghost, which made Madison's victim narrative harder to sell. She needed me to be the villain, and I refused to play the role. Thursday afternoon, Lila called me. The Airbnb is canceled. Owner refunded everything after I explained the situation. Said he doesn't allow his property to be used for affairs. What did Madison say? She doesn't know yet. The cancellation email went to the account I'm monitoring. She won't see it until she tries to check in Friday. Perfect. Let her pack. Let her drive all the way there with Devin. Let them get excited about their romantic weekend. And then let them discover they have nowhere to stay, no refund, and no backup plan. There's something else, Lila said. I accessed the fitness app data. Devin Cross trains at Madison's gym, but he's also training 3 other women. And based on the calendar patterns, I think he's running the same playbook with all of them. He's a serial cheater, more like a professional. He targets women with money, plays the attentive lover, gets them to pay for things. Classic romance scam, but he's smart enough to keep it plausibly deniable. I leaned back, processing this. Madison doesn't know. No idea. She thinks she's special. She thinks he really cares about her. This was even better than I'd hoped. Madison wasn't just cheating with a scumbag. She was being scammed by one. And when it all fell apart, and it would, she'd have no one to blame but herself. Keep monitoring them, I said. I want to know every move they make. Friday came. I spent the morning at a coffee shop with my laptop, watching the digital feeds Lila had set up. GPS tracking showed Madison leaving her apartment at 10 a.m. She drove to Devin's place, picked him up, and headed north toward Lake Geneva. They stopped for lunch at a nice restaurant. Madison posted a photo of their food. No faces, but you could see 2 sets of hands on the table. Comments poured in. Cute. Is this a date? You look happy. She was building toward a reveal, the big announcement that she'd found someone new, someone who appreciated her, someone who wasn't me. They reached Lake Geneva at 3 p.m. GPS showed them pulling up to the Airbnb address. I waited. At 3:24, Madison's phone location started moving erratically, pacing. Then a call to the Airbnb owner. Then frantic Googling for alternative rentals. Nothing available. Everything booked. Lila sent me a screenshot of a text Madison sent to Devin. The place canceled. Emergency maintenance. Looking for backup. Devin's response, use your credit card. My credit card, he meant, the one that was now frozen. Another text from Madison. Card's not working, try yours? Devin, tapped out till Monday. Of course he was. Because he was a scam artist who never spent his own money. They ended up at a budget motel. Not the romantic lakefront getaway Madison had envisioned. A standard room with thin walls and a parking lot view. She didn't post about that. Saturday was when things got interesting. I drove to Lake Geneva myself, not to confront them, that would be stupid, just to observe, to see how they handled disappointment, to watch Madison's perfect plan crumble in real time. I found them at a public beach. Madison wore a designer swimsuit and sunglasses that cost more than my motel room. Devin looked exactly like his Instagram photos, all muscles and white teeth, and that specific kind of confidence that comes from never facing consequences. They didn't see me. I stayed back, just another tourist with a book and sunscreen. But I watched Madison try to keep up appearances, posting carefully angled photos that hid the mediocre surroundings. Watched Devin check his phone constantly, barely paying attention to her. Watched the moment she realized he was texting other women while sitting right next to her. Her face fell, just for a second. Then she recovered, smiled, leaned in for a selfie. The performance was exhausting to watch. She was working so hard to make this look perfect, to make me and everyone else believe she'd upgraded, that she was happier now. But I could see the cracks, the forced smiles, the tension in her shoulders, the way Devin pulled away when she tried to hold his hand. This wasn't love. This wasn't even a successful affair. This was a disaster held together by social media filters and denial. I left before they saw me. Drove back to Chicago with a plan forming. Madison had built her new life on lies and stolen money. She'd burned bridges to get here, and now I was going to make sure she couldn't go back. Sunday morning, I made the calls. First, the landlord of Madison's apartment, her father's friend, who'd co-signed the lease as a favor. I explained the situation calmly, factually. The abandoned marriage, the drained accounts, the fact that Madison had been using the apartment for an affair while I'd been paying the majority of the rent. I'm removing myself from the lease, I said, and I wanted you to know that Madison hasn't been paying her share. The account she's been pulling from is empty now. I'd check to make sure next month's rent is covered. He promised to look into it. I knew what he'd find. Nothing. Madison had spent everything on her affair. She had no rent money, and without me co-signing, she had no way to prove she could pay. Second call, our divorce attorney. I'd retained him quietly on Thursday, before Madison even knew I was gone. He'd already filed the initial paperwork. Now I authorized him to proceed with serving her the papers. I want this fast, I told him. No reconciliation, no counseling. She gets nothing beyond her legal minimum. And I want documentation of every account she drained, every fraudulent charge she made. That'll hurt her in court, he said. Good. Third call, my bank. Fraud report on the credit card Madison had maxed out. I hadn't authorized those charges. I wanted them investigated and reversed. This might take some time, the rep said. That's fine, as long as it's documented that someone other than me made those charges without permission. Because technically, Madison wasn't authorized to use my personal credit card, only the joint account, which she'd already emptied. Every charge at hotels, restaurants, and jewelry stores was fraud. By noon, I'd set everything in motion. Madison's romantic weekend was ruined, her apartment was in jeopardy, her finances were frozen, and she was about to be served divorce papers. All while she was still posting Instagram stories about finding happiness. The disconnect was almost beautiful. Monday morning, reality hit Madison like a freight train. First, the divorce papers, served at her office by a professional courier, in front of her coworkers, very public, very embarrassing. Then the eviction notice. Her landlord, her father's friend, had called her father, had explained the situation. Her father, who'd always thought I was good for her, who'd co-signed the lease because he trusted me to keep his daughter stable. He was furious, demanded she move out within 30 days, then the credit card fraud investigation, her purchases flagged, her accounts frozen pending review, and finally the social media reckoning. Because Lila had been busy over the weekend, dropping hints and facts in strategic places, screenshots of drained accounts sent anonymously to Madison's sister, photos of Devin with other women shared in group chats, records of every lie Madison had told, every story that didn't add up, presented without commentary to the people who mattered. The narrative shifted. Madison wasn't the brave woman finding happiness. She was the cheater who'd stolen from her husband and destroyed her marriage for a scam artist. Comments on her Instagram turned sharp. Did you really drain your joint account? Is it true you were cheating while Ryan paid your bills? Girl, what happened to you? She deleted the posts, went private. But the damage was done. Screenshots lived forever. And through all of this, I remained silent. A ghost. A victim who'd simply walked away rather than fight. It made me look dignified. It made her look desperate. Monday afternoon, Madison tried to call me. The number was blocked, but Lila intercepted the voicemail. Ryan, please, we need to talk. This is insane. You can't just leave like this. You can't just destroy everything. I don't understand what happened. Call me back, please. Her voice was shaking, scared. Good. Tuesday started with a message from Lila. She knows you're tracking something, acting paranoid, might try to run. I'd expected this. Madison was smart enough to realize she'd been outmaneuvered, even if she didn't understand how. The question was whether she'd fight or flee. Turned out, she'd try both. That morning, she posted on Instagram for the first time since going private. Sometimes people show their true colors when tested. I'm seeing clearly now. The comments were mixed. Some supportive friends, others calling her out. One person wrote, "Maybe you should have thought about that before maxing out Ryan's credit card." Madison deleted the comment. Then another. Then she disabled comments entirely. She was losing control of the narrative, and she knew it. I met Lila at our usual coffee shop. She slid her tablet across the table, showing me a series of screenshots. Madison's been reaching out to Devin constantly since Sunday, Lila said. He's been ghosting her. Look at this. The messages were increasingly desperate. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? I need to talk to you about something important. Devin, please. No responses. He knows she's broke, I said. No point sticking around. Exactly. And look at this. He's already moved on. Started commenting on another woman's posts, some yoga instructor he trains. I studied the profile. Young, attractive, recently divorced, according to her bio. Perfect target. Madison's going to figure it out eventually, I said. She already has. Look at what she sent him last night. The message read, I saw you with her at the gym. Are you serious right now? After everything I gave up for you? Devin's response, finally. We never said exclusive. You're overreacting. Madison, I left my husband for you. Devin, your choice, not my problem. Then he'd blocked her. I actually laughed, couldn't help it. Madison had blown up her entire life for a guy who didn't even have the decency to pretend to care once the money ran out. She's spiraling, Lila said, posting and deleting constantly. Called out of work yesterday. Her friends are starting to worry. Let them worry. She made this mess. Ryan, Lila's voice went serious. How far are you planning to take this? I met her eyes. As far as it takes for her to understand what she did. She didn't just cheat. She stole from me. She humiliated me. She tried to make me the villain in her little redemption story. So yeah, I'm taking this all the way. Lila nodded slowly. Okay, then you need to see this. She pulled up a new screen, calendar data from Madison's phone. She's planning something. Thursday afternoon, meeting with someone listed as Attorney JM. I think she's getting her own lawyer. Expected, I said. My attorney already filed. She needs representation. It's not just that. Look at the notes attached to the appointment. Lila zoomed in. The notes read, restraining order, harassment claims. My blood went cold. She's going to try to paint you as the bad guy, Lila said. Claim you're stalking her, harassing her, freezing her out financially. She'll say she was afraid to tell you about the divorce because you were controlling. That's insane. I left. I haven't contacted her once. Doesn't matter. It's a strategy. If she can get a restraining order, you look like the aggressor. Suddenly, all her actions seem justified. She was escaping an abusive relationship. The drained accounts, the affair, everything gets reframed. I sat back, processing. Madison was adapting. When the victim narrative failed, she'd switched to survivor mode. Paint me as an abuser. It was brilliant in a sociopathic way. Can she win with that? I asked. Depends on what evidence she presents. If she can show a pattern of controlling behavior, there isn't one. I never controlled anything. She made every decision in our relationship. Then she'll manufacture it. Trust me, Ryan. I've seen this before. Texts taken out of context. Normal arguments reframed as threats. Jealousy painted as stalking. I thought about every text I'd ever sent Madison. Every email. Every conversation. Was there anything she could twist? Probably. There was always something if you looked hard enough. What do I do? I asked. Beat her to it. Document everything. Show the court who really has the power here, and we need to stop her from meeting with that attorney. How? Lila smiled. Not a nice smile. Leave that to me. Wednesday, I spent the day building my case. Every bank statement printed and organized, every text message backed up, every email saved. I created a timeline of Madison's affair, complete with GPS data from her fitness app, credit card charges that matched hotel visits, and social media posts that contradicted her claimed locations. It was damning, irrefutable. She couldn't claim abuse when the evidence showed she'd been living a double life for months while I'd been working to support us. My attorney reviewed everything that afternoon. This is solid, he said. If she tries the harassment angle, we'll bury her. The court will see exactly what happened here. What about the restraining order? She can try, but she'll need evidence. And right now, all the evidence points to her being the aggressor. She drained accounts, she committed fraud, she abandoned the marriage, you left quietly and filed for divorce. That's not harassment, that's self-preservation. I felt some of the tension ease. Madison could spin whatever story she wanted, but facts were facts. One more thing, my attorney said. Her meeting with an attorney Thursday? I know who JM is. Judith Martinez. She's good, but she's also ethical. If Madison tries to manufacture evidence or lie about abuse, Judith will drop her as a client. So don't worry too much about that meeting. Unless Madison convinces her I'm actually dangerous. Then we show her the evidence. Judith's not stupid. She'll see through it. I hoped he was right. Thursday morning, Madison's appointment with Judith Martinez never happened. Lila had intercepted the reminder notification and deleted it. Simple. Effective. Madison forgot about the meeting entirely, caught up in her spiral of trying to find a new place to live and managing her imploding social life. By the time she remembered that evening, it was too late. The attorney's office was closed. Madison left a voicemail apologizing and trying to reschedule. Meanwhile, I was 3 steps ahead. Lila had identified every weak point in Madison's life, and we were systematically targeting them, not with violence, not with threats, just with information and natural consequences. Her gym membership, canceled when her credit card was declined. She couldn't afford to renew. Her car payment? Late notice sent after her bank account stayed empty. One more missed payment, and they'd repo it. Her apartment? Her father had stopped covering for her after learning the truth. She had until the end of the month to move out and nowhere to go. Every piece of the life she'd built on my support was collapsing, and she couldn't stop it because she had no resources, no savings, no backup plan. She'd spent everything on the affair. This feels excessive, I told Lila Thursday night. Maybe we should ease off. Do you remember what she did to you? Lila asked. She didn't just cheat. She tried to destroy you financially and socially. She was building a narrative where you were the villain and she was the hero. If you'd been slower to react, she would have succeeded. You'd be the abusive ex everyone gossiped about. She'd be the brave survivor. I know, but no buts. This isn't revenge. This is consequences. Madison made choices, bad choices. Now she lives with them. That's called being an adult. She was right. I knew she was right. But watching someone's life fall apart, even someone who deserved it, felt wrong on some level. Then I remembered the Instagram post, the smug smile, the stolen money, the way she'd tried to paint me as the obstacle to her happiness. My sympathy evaporated. What's next? I asked. I've been monitoring her communication with friends, Lila said. She's trying to borrow money, 3 different people so far. Spinning some story about how you cleaned out the accounts and left her with nothing. That's a lie. Obviously. But it might work on people who don't know the full story. We need to make sure they do. How? Give me permission to share the bank records, anonymously. Just the transaction history showing who transferred what, when. Let people see that she drained everything herself. I hesitated. That felt like an invasion of privacy, even though it was my own account. Ryan, Lila said patiently, she's lying about you to get money from your friends. You want them believing her lies? No. Then let me fix this. I gave permission. By Friday morning, 3 different friends had texted Madison some version of, "Hey, saw some records? Want to talk about what actually happened?" She didn't respond to any of them. Friday afternoon, I tailed Madison to the gym. She was still going, even without a membership. No official registration. She had to sneak in behind other gym-goers, avoid any attention, use the free weights, and act as if she belonged. It was sad, honestly. Pathetic, even. A person who once flaunted her social life and now had to hide like this to maintain an illusion of normalcy. It made my jaw tighten just watching her. But she wasn't there alone. Of course not. Devin was there too. They had become a predictable pair. He was with the yoga instructor, laughing, flirting, and doing the same routine that he'd probably used on Madison. I watched them from across the gym, and there she was, pretending to stretch, but really just staring across the room at him. She couldn't even hide the hurt in her eyes. She was still emotionally tethered to him, hanging on to something that had already slipped through her fingers. And then Devin saw her. He gave her a quick, dismissive glance, but it wasn't enough to stop him from turning back to the yoga instructor. Without hesitation, he kissed her. Right there, in front of Madison, in the gym where it all began for them. Madison's face went ashen. She looked like she had been hit. Her eyes went wide with disbelief, the kind of reaction that someone who had believed in their own worth could only have when they realized they were nothing more than a disposable option. She grabbed her bag, and without a word, she walked out, leaving the gym behind. I followed at a safe distance, not close enough to be noticed, but close enough to observe her actions. She drove straight to Devin's apartment. I parked a few blocks away, just out of sight, and waited. Madison sat in her car for 20 minutes, staring at the building, no doubt trying to gather her thoughts or plan her next move. I couldn't help but wonder what was going through her head. She had made her choice. Now she was paying for it. But I wasn't about to let her forget who had been wronged here. Then she did something I didn't expect. She got out of the car and walked up to his door. She knocked once, waited, knocked again, more urgently this time. No answer. He was still at the gym. She tried the handle. Locked. Frustration radiated from her as she stepped back, looking up at the building, probably cursing him for being absent. And then she did it. She pulled out her phone and started taking photos. Photos of his door, his car parked out front, and the building number. She was documenting it all. Why? I had no idea. But the idea of her trying to control the narrative, even in her moment of weakness, struck me as ironic. "What are you doing, Madison?" I muttered under my breath. She got back in her car, drove away, and I followed her without hesitation. But I wasn't sure where this was going, not until she stopped at a police station. My stomach twisted. What the hell was she doing? Was she seriously going to file a report? What could she even claim? That her heart was broken? That she was the victim here? I quickly dialed Lila. "Madison just went into a police station. What do I do?" I asked, barely keeping the panic out of my voice. Lila's voice was calm on the other end. "Stay away. Don't go near that building. If she's filing some kind of report about you, being there will only make it worse." "She's not reporting me," I said. "She went to Devin's first, took photos." Lila's pause was brief, but telling. "Oh, she's trying to build a case against him. Probably thinks if she can paint him as threatening, it'll explain why she went back to you." "Wait, no, that doesn't make sense. She's not going back to you." "Right," I said, realization settling in. "She's trying to get revenge on him, like I got revenge on her." Lila's voice softened. "Except she has no evidence of anything illegal. What's she going to say? He broke up with her? That's not a crime." I watched the police station for another few minutes, feeling the tension build in my chest. Madison came out after 40 minutes looking furious, shaking her head in frustration. She had clearly been brushed off by whoever was behind that counter. They didn't take her seriously, and they shouldn't have. She drove back home, and I let her go. There was no need to follow her now. But something clicked in my mind. Madison wasn't just spiraling. She was actively trying to regain control. After losing everything, me, Devin, her apartment, her lifestyle, she was trying to hurt whoever she could reach. She was lashing out because she had nothing left to lose. That made her dangerous, unpredictable. "We need to end this," I told Lila that night, my mind racing with possibilities. "Before she does something really stupid." Lila's voice was measured. "What did you have in mind?" I paused, thinking. Then the idea hit me. "The Airbnb this weekend. She booked it originally for her and Devin, right? What if we made sure she still went, but without him?" Lila was silent for a beat. Then she asked, "Why would she go alone?" "Because we'll suggest it, anonymously. A message from a concerned friend saying she needs to take time for herself. Get away from everything, reset. Make her think it's her idea. She mulled it over. And then what? You confront her there? Maybe. Or maybe I just let her sit with what she's done. Let her be alone with no money, no boyfriend, no husband, no safety net. Let her feel exactly what I felt when I saw that Instagram post. Isolation as revenge, Lila said quietly. Psychological warfare. She started it, I said, my voice firm. Fair enough, she replied. I'll plant the suggestion. You book a place nearby in case you need to make an appearance. The next few days were tense. Every move Madison made felt like a misstep, like she was digging her own hole deeper, and I was just waiting for her to fall into it. Saturday morning, Madison drove to Lake Geneva alone. Lila's social engineering had worked flawlessly. She'd set up a fake account pretending to be an old friend from high school. The profile had a carefully curated photo of a woman in her 30s, artsy with vague posts about life, healing, and rediscovering herself. This friend messaged Madison suggesting she visit Lake Geneva for a weekend alone, to take time for herself and reclaim a trip that had once gone wrong. Madison, clearly desperate to regain some control over her life and image, had latched onto the idea immediately. She found a cheap cabin, barely affordable, the kind of place that didn't scream luxury, but at least it had a semblance of an escape. It wasn't the pricey Airbnb from before. No, this time she was scraping by, using a borrowed credit card from her sister. But the cabin was secluded enough, the perfect place to hide away and lick her wounds. I followed 3 hours behind, checking into a small motel just outside the town. Close enough to observe her, far enough to remain invisible. Lila kept me updated. She's at the cabin, posting sad Instagram stories about needing time alone. Very dramatic, a mix of self-pity and faux enlightenment. Anyone commenting? I asked, a smirk on my lips despite the circumstances. Of course, lots of support, people telling her to take care of herself, the usual nonsense. I chuckled. Let them feed her ego for now. We're not here for the applause, just waiting for the right moment. Madison had always been a master of appearances. She could project a perfectly curated, flawless life for the public to consume. But deep down, I knew the cracks had started showing. This escape was her way of reasserting dominance, attempting to claim back the narrative. But she didn't know it yet. This weekend would be her last attempt at control. By early afternoon, I was at the edge of the cabin's property, just a few miles away. I didn't want to get too close. The goal wasn't to confront her yet. That would come later. For now, I had to keep up the pressure without her realizing it. Lila had done her part, setting the stage perfectly. Do you think she's still delusional enough to think this is her way out? I asked Lila, glancing at my phone screen as another one of Madison's Instagram stories popped up. The photo was of the lake, with her back to the camera, looking out at the view. Absolutely. It's part of her pattern. She runs from anything that makes her feel exposed or vulnerable. She'll cry it out, post her journey, but she won't actually face what she's done. I knew Lila was right. Madison wasn't going to confront reality. She was hoping this retreat would fix everything, give her a few days of pretending she was the victim in this whole mess. But I knew better. I had a different plan for her. Sunday morning, I decided to make my move. Madison's posts had slowed down. She'd spent most of the previous evening posting overly dramatic, self-reflective content. But by morning, she seemed quieter, more subdued. Maybe the reality of her situation had begun to sink in. I drove to a nearby cafe in the town center and sat, drinking my coffee slowly while I observed the area. I wasn't sure if Madison was planning to stay in the cabin for much longer, but I knew she had a flight scheduled for Monday afternoon. I needed to make sure that by the time she returned, there was no escaping the consequences of her actions. Lila's voice came through my earpiece. I've been tracking her social media and messages. She's getting a little too comfortable, posting about her breakthroughs. But I see something else. She's been communicating with Devin more. He's starting to show signs of regret. Might be some cracks forming there, too. I smiled. Devin Cross, her college ex, the man she'd been so certain would be her future. He was a fool, just as I'd expected. But even fools had their breaking point. Let's keep the pressure on him. We need to make sure he feels the consequences of his actions, too, I said. Lila's tone shifted. I've already sent a few emails to some of his associates, just asking a few pointed questions about his credentials and business dealings. Nothing major, just subtle. Let's see how he reacts. Late Sunday afternoon, I decided to visit the cabin. I parked a few blocks away, taking a walk down the road that led to the isolated property. It wasn't a confrontation yet. No, that would come later. For now, I was just making sure she knew I was still there, watching. I didn't have to do anything grand. No need to show up at her door. This was about planting seeds of doubt, of fear. I pulled out my phone and snapped a few photos of the cabin, a simple reminder of where she was and where she wasn't safe. After taking a few pictures, I made my way back to the car. As I got in, I sent Lila a quick text. Time for the final phase. Keep an eye on the social feeds. I want her feeling the pressure tonight. Monday arrived with its usual sense of urgency. I knew Madison had a flight booked for 1 p.m. Lila was already monitoring her social media for any signs of distress. Lila texted me just before noon. She's gone, headed to the airport. But guess what? Devin just got a call. Another client pulled out. Looks like his reputation is catching up to him. Perfect timing, I muttered under my breath. I quickly drafted an email, sending it to the last few clients I could dig up in Devin's portfolio. Subtle warnings, just enough to make him sweat. Just enough to ensure that when he returned to reality, he wouldn't have a career to fall back on. By the time Madison's plane landed, things were already unraveling. Lila had successfully managed to leak enough information to her co-workers about her affair with Devin. People were starting to talk, and the cracks in Madison's world were widening fast. The social media buzz had spread. She was no longer the victim. She was the punchline of the joke. By Tuesday, I was watching Madison through the eyes of everyone who had once admired her. The work colleagues, the friends, the acquaintances. They had all seen her exposed. She had no escape route. Devin was too entangled in his own mess, and now Madison was left to pick up the pieces of her once perfect life. Wednesday morning, I received a call from Mark, my lawyer. Ryan, we've got everything we need. The settlement's in your favor. Madison's attorney wants to settle. She has no leg to stand on. I couldn't help but smile. Good. Make sure it's done. This was the moment I'd been planning for. The revenge I'd carefully and methodically built was now complete. Madison had lost everything. Her reputation was in shambles. Her finances were drained. She had no career left to speak of and no allies. As I walked away from the lawyer's office, I glanced at my phone one last time. The final Instagram post had been up for hours. Madison, looking forlorn and alone, standing on the edge of a dock with the lake in the background. The caption read, "Starting over, reclaiming myself." The comments flooded in. Her friends, her family, everyone who had once supported her, now saw her for what she really was. And me? I was done. No more games. No more second guessing. It was over. Madison had lost. I had won.